pair of boxing gloves on. He's the same size as him, already been beaten before. It is what it is, you know. It's Billy Joe's a two-time two-weight world champion. Canelo's probably the same, and it's a fight, you know. Don't make this man out to be some killer. He's just a boxer with a pair of gloves on. So, you know, I'm not nervous about this fight, not at all. I'm very confident that he's gonna beat him.
You sounded
comfortable as well. All he's got to do is meet him with a jab right in the mouth, bang, 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 offset him. Who actually went into a fight with Canelo in recent years believing he could win it? Most of them are only turning up for a payday anyway. And to us, it's not really about the money. We'd rather have the victory than the money.
Yeah.
And I spoke to Billy Joe a couple of weeks ago as well. We were running actually around Red Rock in Vegas. And he said to me, he said, look, I would rather die 10 minutes after winning this fight than lose it.
Wow.
So it means that much to him. It's not just a boxing match to Billy Joe. It's his life, it's his legacy. It's what he lives to do. And I know for a fact, when he's in there with a good dance partner, he will rise to the occasion.
So, I think it's good news for Billy Joe Saunders if he can get inside Canelo's head. I think it will help his performance, especially if he's going to box and move and try and sort of just stay out of harm's way and try and pepper from the outside. I'm not sure how long that'll work and if he can get away with it. But speaking to Tibbs this morning, Mark Tibbs, that's the game plan. I think it's going to be box, move. It's just whether he can sustain it for 12 rounds. He's not Sugar Ray Leonard, is he? Do you know what I mean? And if he was that kind of a fighter, but Billy Joe he's a good boxer, very skillful. He's got fast hands. He's good on his feet. So if he's fit enough to pull it off for 12 rounds, I mean, I'm just a bit concerned if that this ends up being a bit of a stinker if he runs and keeps out of the way and really tries to just not get hit and makes it a bad one. But I think Canelo will cut the ring off and try and back up Billy Joe Saunders. But yeah, there's so many different ways this could go. But I think you've got to favour Canelo to get the job done, possibly inside the distance. I hope not. I mean, don't get me wrong, I want Billy Joe to pull it off. If he pulls it off, it'll be amazing. It'll be so good for boxing. It'd be great for British fighting and for the fans, and good for Billy Joe. I like Billy Joe Saunders. I want him to do the business, but he's in against Canelo Alvarez, and it's just a tough one to pick in Billy's favour.
The great thing about Billy is, I mean, he definitely respects Canelo Alvarez as a fighter, but he's not showing him any respect really, and he doesn't want to. He wants to try and get under his skin, and he won't be overawed, Billy Joe Saunders, in this fight. Like, he will rise to the occasion where others would crumble. And the atmosphere is going to be, I mean, deafening, probably hostile, but that will probably suit him. And this is a real fight. You know, I've said for a long time, this is the toughest fight for Canelo Alvarez in the division. And Billy's got his moment. So it's time to find out how good he is, because he's told everyone for a long time he can do it. And he's going to get the chance to. And, you know, every head-to-head, every moment, you know, there's a lot of people that believe in, and you can see why.
Look, it's a tough fight for him. You know, but Bill has done everything that's been asked of him as a pro. And when he's on the money, he's a very, very, very difficult fighter to beat. He's undefeated. Very difficult fight. When he's at his best, he's as good as anybody out there. Any fight he's had where he's been an underdog, he's risen to the occasion and won the fight. My only reservation is that, you know, Canelo has fought at light heavyweight, so he's a naturally big guy. He's come down again, so he's obviously a very big super middleweight. Bill was fighting at middleweight, that's gone up, and Canelo's very comfortable at that weight. So it's, for me, that's in the back of my mind. Is Bill going to be really comfortable at that weight against somebody who's going to be very strong and obviously very, very skillful? Now in the States, they all think that Canelo is going to be a walkover. You know, Billy Joe's made a sterner stuff than that, and he's got a bit of a ticker there as well. So I think that you know, it's a tough fight for Bill.
I think if anyone's got a style to cause this near perfect boxer some problems, it's someone like Billy Joe. I really do. But you know, it's hard to. I can't bet against Canelo. I've seen him fight live multiple times. He's as good as it gets. But he's got his. I like the confidence in Billy Joe. I like every time I see an interview, he really believes it, and he's going to need to, and he's going to need to have the fight of his life. He's going to need to throw more punches. He's going to be sharper. He's got to be fitter. He's going to have to be punch perfect at every second of this 12 rounds. And if it does go 12 rounds, the likelihood, even if he wins the majority of the rounds, the likelihood of him winning against Canelo, in the States is slim. So he's going to need a knockout. So if he does manage to stun or hurt Canelo, he's going to have to really let them hands go. He's going to have to do the impossible. It's an impossible mission, but you need someone crazy like Billy Joe to pull off a crazy mission, and we've got the right guy.
Give Billy Joe a really good chance. The reason being is because if you think about Canelo Alvarez, the toughest 2 fights he's had in his career, to me, were Floyd Mayweather Jr., who's a pure boxer, and a southpaw by the name of Erislandy Lara, who was a boxer. So if you think about those 2 guys, who's Billy Joe closest related to in the boxing ring? Those 2 guys. He's a boxer, he's southpaw, and he can punch. But he thinks boxing first, much like Tyson Fury. So when you got a guy like that, the only problem Billy Joe's going to have is can he last long enough early to get to those late rounds without sustaining any injuries, cuts, headbutts, anything. Because he's been off for about 15 months, I think, if not longer. So they're catching him at a bad time for him. But that's usually how they try to do you in situations when you aren't the A-side guy. So they're catching Billy Joe at the worst time they can catch him in, they think. So now Billy Joe has to make some adjustments. He has to figure out how to make up for that ring rust before he gets in there. Because if he can get into the fight right away, he has a very good chance of winning it. If he doesn't get into the fight right away, then he'll get blown away. But he's a very smart guy. He's a boxer. He's a smart boxer. With that being said, he should have a chance in this fight.
I'm backing Billy Joe Saunders because the reason why I'll make a few points about Billy Joe Saunders. He's always been a very smooth boxer and he gives people problems. As you can see, Amir Khan gave Canelo a problem early because of his speed and his boxing ability. Billy Joe Saunders is a better boxer than Amir Khan with similar speed. And also, Billy Joe Saunders seems to develop this power lately that he never had early in his career where like he's dropping these guys, you know what I mean? He's standing in the pocket more and letting his hands go and hurting his head. But I just think that, I personally think it will outbox Canelo, I think if he can keep it moving and do his thing, man, like it's, sometimes just that one fight where everything comes together. I think this might be the fight for Billy Joe Saunders where, some of his fights is good, and other fights he's a bit, and people say, he's this and that. I personally think this fight, there's enough nerves and enough fear and enough to sacrifice, to go there, Shema. I think that it will do everything right in this camp, and he looks in great shape. And he's a friend of mine and he's a support of mine. Even at times with me and Tyson Fury, he's been matched to fight. He's never really sided with anyone, really. He's always backed me. So, and I'm backing him for legitimate reasons. Olympic gold medalist. What's he? What's he? 30? What's he? 20? What's he? 28 and all or something? Is he 26, 27?
That's 28, I think. 28 and all, I think, Billy Joe.
Yeah. And we've seen the fight in America. He came from Vienna and stopped that other guy. And then, he went to Canada and outboxed David Lomax. So, so I think he's had enough ups and downs in his career, enough problems, hard fights, easy fights, challenging fights and stuff like that. So I think he will beat Canelo on points. So Canelo is a very tough guy, very strong guy, very powerful at the weight, and he's not tall, but he's very stocky at the weight, so it'll be difficult. But I think if anyone is super middleweight from England can do it, it's Billy Joe Saunders. If he can't do it, then no one else from the UK can beat Canelo.
Yeah.
I think Canelo is one of the greatest fighters of our era. That goes without saying, one of my favourite fighters as well. But if anyone's going to beat Canelo, it's going to be Billy Joe. So that's the way I look at that. If anyone's going to come close to beating Canelo, it'd be Billy Joe. And and Billy Joe looks in unbelievable shape as well, doesn't he? So I'd be psyched for Billy Joe to do it.
But
It's his stateside as well, isn't it?
yeah, in Dallas.
So-
May the 8th.
Yeah, so it's he'd have to beat him really, really convincingly to get a win. Like, he'd have to beat him good to get a win.
But this is what guys like Billy Joe in the sport for fighting the best. And Canelo is, in some people's eyes, pound for pound #1. So
I would say that pound for pound for #1.
Yeah.
Oh, I put Canelo up there. So for us to be even saying Billy Joe can beat, if there's anyone that can beat him, that's a credit to Billy Joe. And if anyone can beat him, it's Billy Joe. His boxing brain, and I think he thrives off the challenge.
and he's probably thriving off the fact that so many people are writing him off as well.
Yeah, of course he is. Yeah, and I can completely understand that. I mean, my whole career goes off people doubting me and saying I ain't going to be this and be that. And, definitely for him, I mean, I'm looking forward to the fight. Because it's going to be an interesting one, because I feel like it's going to be a chess match. And I think Billy Joe can outthink him, outsmart him. He's also got that spite in him as well. So it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, obviously, when Callum Smith fought Canelo, people thought that was going to be a lot tougher fight than it was, and Canelo just made it look like an easy, nice work. So, as I said, if I think anyone can beat Canelo, it's Billy Joe.
Joe beat him.
I've known Billy since GB days. Billy is one of the best natural fighters this country's ever produced. That's how good he is. One of the best natural boxers this country's ever seen. It comes to him at ease, Kugan. Boxing isn't hard for Billy Joe. Boxing for a fat fucker like me is hard. It's very hard. Training every day is very hard. The actual boxing side and the technical side of boxing is easy to Billy Joe. He has every chance. Don't get me wrong, it's a mountain, mate, and it's Everest that he's got in front of him. But people have climbed Everest. Canelo has been beaten. It's not impossible. I think potentially it's the hardest task in boxing right now, to be honest. I really do. I think he's the hardest person in the world to beat. Because he's just... How do you beat him? Chin him? No one's outboxing him. Could you frustrate him? I think you can. But is he that experienced now that he's going to fall for the frustration? I don't think he is. I think he had that with Floyd Mayweather. He's the only fighter I've ever seen in the history of boxing. He's like fucking Thanos of boxing. It's like he takes everything from you. Even if you beat him, he takes everything from you and uses it against others. That's who he is. He's Thanos. He is. And each belt he takes is like a fucking diamond on his ring. He just keeps taking belts like he's Thanos. It's just come to me that out of nowhere. He takes everything from you. Never ever seen. Really loud. Do you mind, lad?
Do you mind?
Do you mind?
God.
Jesus Christ.
Again, if Billy Joe's on form, it's a Billy Joe Saunders win. Billy Joe at his best can beat any middleweight in the world, and I think Billy Joe can do a Mayweather 2 on him. He's got that skill, Billy. And Billy will raise his game like Tyson. And he's got the ability to beat any man in the world. He's got that style, awkwardness, a southpaw, Let me tell you now, Canelo won't be jumping up and down to fight Billy Joe Saunders. And if Billy Joe Saunders was active and not inactive, he'd be a great, great fighter. But they can't get work. The lockdown has caused so many good fighters to stay where they are, stagnant. It's like Tyson. Can you imagine what he'd have been like if he had another 3 fights going into this next one? And like Billy Joe with 3 fights behind him going into Canelo. I know I'd be having my money if Billy had 3 fights. But I'm going to put my bankroll on Billy anyway. I still think he can beat him. Canelo's a great fighter, but he's got a lot of flaws. And if his team's clever enough to spot him, Billy Joe will beat him. It's attitude in fights what win fights. Attitude and balls, and Billy's got plenty of it. He comes from that kind of family, the fighting people, and he'll be carrying his pride with him. He'll know what Tyson's done, and he'll want to be up there with him, unbeaten, keeping his own. I really think Billy Joe can beat him. I really do. Not because he's a fellow traveller, and I'm not biased about Canelo. Canelo's done big things, but when I watched it only the other night, Mayweather schooled him, and I mean schooled him.
took the piss really. And Billy Joe has got that kind of ability. If he's on form, that is, and he does things right, I think he can do that to him. Probably not in the way Mayweather did it, but I think he can do somewhat similar and walk away with a victory. But then again, it depends where he fights him. Fights him in America, he needs a knockout to get a draw, don't he?